get ready to dive into a seriously decadent treat with my caramel fudge recipe. This layered fudge combines the creamy sweetness of semi-sweet chocolate with a smooth caramel layer that's basically melt-in-your-mouth perfection. Whether you're making this for a party, gifting it to friends, or, let's be honest, keeping it all for yourself, I'm here to walk you through every step. And trust me, this one's a keeper. Hi, I'm Arina. Welcome to my channel, where I share my favorite recipes along with tips and tricks to help them look just as amazing as they taste. Today, we're diving into something delicious, so grab your ingredients and let's get cooking. You'll find links to all the tools and other recipes in the description below. Let's get started. To begin, fill a cooking pot about 1/3 of the way with water and bring it to a simmer. Once the water is gently simmering, lower the heat to keep it steady but not boiling. Then, place a large glass or metal mixing bowl over the pot, making sure the bowl doesn't touch the water. This creates a double boiler, which allows the ingredients to melt evenly without burning. If you're new to this technique, don't worry. I have a separate video where I explain exactly how to set up a double boiler. So be sure to check that out for a more detailed guide. Now, add 3 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips to the bowl. These will form the rich chocolatey base of our fudge. Next, pour in 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. This will give the fudge that creamy, melt-in-your-mouth texture. Then add 1/4 cup of room temperature unsalted butter. The butter helps to add richness and smoothness to the mixture, so be sure it's softened to blend easily. Finally, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract for that little touch of warmth and extra depth of flavor. As I stir the mixture with my trusty silicone spatula, I make sure to take my time, about 10 minutes or so. I know it can feel tempting to rush through, but trust me, patience really pays off here. Stirring gently but consistently is key to getting that perfectly smooth fudge texture we all love. I always keep the spatula moving, scraping the sides and bottom of the bowl to make sure nothing sticks or burns. It's important to make sure all the ingredients are fully combined, with no stubborn chunks of chocolate or butter lingering in the mix. One tip I've picked up over the years: using a silicone spatula is a game changer. It's flexible enough to get every last bit of fudge mixture from the bowl, and it won't scratch your mixing bowls like a metal utensil might. Plus, it helps you control the stirring without being too harsh on the mixture, keeping it nice and smooth. As you keep stirring, you'll notice the mixture starts to look glossy, rich, and velvety. That's when you know you're on the right track. Keep going until everything has melted together beautifully and the fudge is smooth as silk. You'll know it's ready when there's no graininess and the texture is completely smooth and shiny. Now, we're ready for the next step. Every Christmas, I like to spoil my friends and family with a homemade gift box filled with a variety of fudges and cookies. It's become my little tradition, and honestly, I think everyone looks forward to the fudge more than the presents. I like to switch things up with different flavors: caramel fudge, pistachio fudge, peppermint, you name it. I even throw in some homemade gingerbread cookies. And sometimes I make cute little sandwich cookies with frosting in between. It's like a holiday dessert sampler straight from my kitchen. But here's the trick. I prepare everything ahead of time to keep my sanity in check. Between the fudge and the cookies, I make most of it in advance, freeze the fudge in blocks, and then do all the fun packaging closer to the big day. It saves me from going into full Christmas panic mode when the holidays hit. Plus, let's be real, the fudge always makes an appearance in the kitchen before it makes its way into the gift boxes. Quality control, right? If you're like me and want to keep things festive but manageable, prepping ahead is a lifesaver. There's something special about gifting homemade treats, and I just love seeing everyone's faces light up when they open their little boxes of sweet surprises. Let's get our pan ready. I like to line my 8x8 glass baking pan with parchment paper to make removing the fudge a breeze. If you're unsure how to perfectly line a pan, don't worry. I have a separate video where I show you exactly how to do this step like a pro. Trust me, lining the pan correctly is a game changer when it comes to cutting and serving your fudge. Once the pan is prepped, go ahead and pour the fudge mixture into the lined baking pan. Using a silicone spatula, smooth out the surface, making sure the fudge is evenly spread across the pan. This ensures that each piece will have that perfect, even thickness. Now that the fudge is in the pan, it's time to let it set. Place the pan in the fridge while we move on to preparing the caramel layer. This will give the fudge time to firm up while we work on the next delicious layer. Now it's time to make the caramel layer, and we're going to follow the same double boiler method as before. I fill my saucepan about 1/3 of the way with water, bring it to a simmer, and then place a clean bowl on top. And just like last time, I make sure the bowl isn't touching the water, so we get that slow, even melt without burning. First, I add 2 cups of caramel bites to the bowl. These are going to melt down into that rich, gooey caramel we all love. Then I pour in 1/4 cup of heavy cream. This will help make the caramel extra creamy and smooth, which is exactly what we're going for here. I give the caramel a good stir every few minutes, making sure to keep everything moving so it melts evenly. There's something so satisfying about watching those caramel bites slowly melt down, blending with the cream to create this rich, smooth texture. It does take a little patience, around 15 minutes of stirring, but it's totally worth the wait. By the end, you'll have a silky, golden caramel that's just begging to be drizzled over anything and everything. Honestly, it's the kind of caramel that's so tempting, you'll want to pour it over ice cream, cakes, or just eat it by the spoonful. But for now, we're keeping it focused on our fudge, which is going to be the real star of the show. I hope you're having as much fun making this caramel fudge as I am. If you're enjoying the recipe so far, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss out on more delicious treats. Have you tried making caramel fudge before? How did it turn out? I'd love to hear your tips or any fun variations you've come up with. Thanks for sticking with me. Let's get back to it and finish up this indulgent fudge. Once your caramel is looking beautifully smooth and ready, it's time to grab the fudge from the fridge. I like to let the chocolate layer set just enough to make sure it's firm before we pour the caramel on top. When you take it out, it should be solid, but still have a bit of give when you press it lightly. Now, here comes the fun part, pouring that silky caramel layer over the fudge. Slowly drizzle the caramel right in the center of the fudge and let it spread out naturally. Then, grab your silicone spatula and start gently spreading the caramel across the top, making sure it reaches all the edges for an even layer. Be patient and take your time with this step. Smooth it out nice and flat, so every bite has that perfect balance of fudge and caramel. One little tip I've learned from making fudge is to give the pan a light tap on the counter once you've smoothed the caramel. This helps get rid of any air bubbles and ensures an even glossy surface. And remember, the smoother the top looks now, the cleaner your cuts will be later. When it comes to holiday gift prep, freezing fudge is my ultimate time saver. After the fudge sets, I like to freeze it ahead of time, so I'm not scrambling during the busy season. Timing is everything when freezing fudge, and it really helps keep the flavors fresh and the texture perfect for when I'm ready to cut and package. If you want to know exactly when and how to freeze fudge for the best results, I've got a separate video that walks you through the process step by step. It's a must-watch if you're gearing up for holiday gifting. Once you're happy with your caramel layer, pop the fudge back into the fridge. Let it chill for at least 2 hours to firm up properly. If you can manage to wait even longer, overnight is ideal. Trust me, I know waiting can be tough, but the texture will be even better. Okay, the fudge has set beautifully, and now comes the part I've been waiting for, cutting it into perfect squares. First things first, I carefully remove the fudge from the fridge. I like to wear disposable vinyl gloves while I'm handling the fudge. This little trick keeps everything looking neat and prevents any fingerprints from smudging the smooth surface of the fudge. It's especially important if you're planning to give the fudge as a gift or serve it at a party. You want it to look as perfect as it tastes. Next up is my cutting board. Make sure it's clean and large enough to comfortably hold the whole fudge block. A sturdy cutting board will give you a nice flat surface to work on and make it easier to get those clean cuts. For scoring the fudge, I like to use my 5-wheel dough cutter. This tool is amazing for getting even, professional-looking squares. I simply roll it across the fudge to create straight, perfectly spaced lines. Don't worry if you don't have this fancy tool though. I've got another video where I show you how to cut fudge into perfect squares using just a regular knife. Now let's talk about the star of the show, your large kitchen knife. This is what you'll use to actually slice through the fudge. Make sure it's sharp to get those clean edges. I also keep a wet kitchen towel on hand to wipe the blade after each cut. Trust me, wiping the knife between cuts is key to keeping your fudge squares neat and free of crumbs or smudges. With all these tools in place, you're ready to dive into cutting your fudge with precision. It may sound like a lot of prep, but each step helps ensure your caramel fudge looks just as good as it tastes. First, carefully remove the fudge from the parchment paper and place it flat on your cutting board. Make sure your cutting board is clean and large enough to hold the entire block of fudge comfortably. Now, it's time to score the fudge. I use my 5-wheel dough cutter to make evenly spaced lines across the surface. I start by gently rolling the cutter over the fudge, pressing just enough to leave a clear mark without cutting all the way through. This step helps guide the actual cutting and ensures your squares are perfectly even. I begin by scoring the fudge in one direction, either vertically or horizontally. Then I turn the fudge 90 degrees and score again, creating a crosshatch pattern. This will give you a grid of perfect little squares that are ready for cutting. The key here is to be gentle and precise, ensuring you don't crack the surface of the fudge before cutting. This step makes cutting much easier and ensures each piece looks neat and uniform. And once your fudge is scored, it's time for the most satisfying part, cutting the fudge into perfect little squares. I like to start by grabbing my large kitchen knife, making sure it's sharp and ready to go. I also keep a wet kitchen towel nearby to wipe the blade after each cut. Trust me, this makes a huge difference in keeping those edges clean and smooth. I begin by cutting along the scored lines, pressing firmly but carefully to avoid cracking the fudge. After each cut, I give the knife a quick wipe with the damp towel to make sure there's no residue or crumbs getting in the way of those beautiful, clean cuts. First, I slice all the vertical lines, then I turn the fudge 90 degrees and repeat the process for the horizontal cuts. Now, here's the fun part. Once you've made all your cuts, you'll likely have some scraps or uneven edges. Don't worry though. In my house, the scraps disappear faster than the actual squares. Whether you're sneaking a taste before serving or your family comes in for a quality check, those uneven bits are still just as delicious. But if you want to avoid scraps altogether, I've got you covered. Check out my other video where I reveal the best pan to use for making fudge. It's a game changer for getting those perfect edges with no waste. So with each square cut, gently push the pieces back together to keep everything neat. And just like that, you've got a tray of perfectly cut, gorgeous fudge squares. And just like that, you've got perfect squares of caramel fudge. The layers of rich chocolate and gooey caramel come together in the most irresistible way, creating a dessert that's truly a match made in heaven. Each bite gives you that perfect balance of smooth, creamy, chocolate, and buttery caramel. And let's be honest, it's hard to stop at just one square. Whether you're serving these at a holiday party, bringing them to a family gathering, or just treating yourself because you deserve it. This fudge is guaranteed to make your day so much sweeter. But wait, there's more. If you're planning to gift these little bites of happiness, you'll want to package them just right. I've got a whole system for wrapping up homemade treats to look as good as they taste, and you can bet your fudge will impress. So, if you're looking for some tips on how to package fudge like a pro, be sure to check out my next video where I walk you through all my favorite techniques for creating beautiful, gift-ready fudge boxes. You'll be handing out these delicious squares like a seasoned holiday expert.